What if I told you the best comedy is random? Welcome back to Car Chat. This is my ongoing series of the Workshopium. I honestly don't have a good name for it yet. I'm Gerald, and we're just going to get straight into it, okay? So, for tonight's Car Chat, I just wanted to talk about how can I even express this? There was a show called Nichijou I was watching earlier today. Funny show, but random as hell, and I still can't pin what the fuck am I actually watching? Forgive my language. The show is completely a cluster mess of random jokes and gags and other things. I don't know why the lighting in here is not as good as it normally is, dude. Oh, there goes the helicopter again. Fancy that. But yeah, no, so the basic crux of it is it's like short skits that have insane animation, funny voice acting, that all lead into a comedic bit. And it made me start thinking about how the funniest things we see in comedy are completely random. Like, to give you an example, well, I'll share a personal life story of mine, okay? Hey, so several years back when I was 20, I was off on a big adventure. I went to Kyoto and I was backing up, okay? I had a flip phone. I was trying to take a photo of the city. Or was it a flip phone? No, it was a smartphone, but like an earlier model of smartphone. And I was backing up and I was trying to take a big scenic shot of Kyoto, because Kyoto, if you don't know, is formed like a bowl, and it has these mountains that are all around the sides, okay? I backed up and I was trying to get the angle of the shot in, and then suddenly the ground gave way. The leaves I stepped on were just that, leaves, not actually ground. And I fell down the hill. And I fell for like a solid 20 minutes. And then when I stopped, I took a breath. I'm like, okay, dude, let me have a breath of fresh air, or maybe I can actually recover from this, right? So then I stood back up, and do you know what happened? The ground gave way to me again, and then I hit my head on a rock, and I black out. And I have no idea what's happening. And the next day, I wake up in a couple's house. Apparently, I hit a river, and I floated downstream quite a ways. It wasn't a deep river, mind you, it was shallow. Oh, but shallow enough with a current able to pull me aside. And this couple found me laying in the marsh, and they're like, this is weird as hell. A foreigner passed out in the marsh. So they took me inside, they bandaged up my head, and they were like, we need to get you to a hospital, we need to get you taken care of. And I was like, no, I'll be fine. And I thanked them for their time, and I left. They told me that my belongings were up and down the river, or that they found a few of my things, but if I walked further upriver, maybe I could find more. I thanked them, and I said that I'll do just that. So I walked down the way, and I was about to cross this bridge that led to this river down there, okay? And you gotta understand, this town, I don't know the name of this town. It was like 4 or 5 miles south of Kyoto, something like that. I floated down like 4 or 5 miles down the river, or without even realizing it. It was absolutely crazy, okay? And this was like a tourist town for Japanese. It was like domestic tourism. So they had like river boats where Japanese tourists would go and take pictures of things, okay? So I met up with this Frenchman there, and the Frenchman was like, he was sitting there, and it was the first time I've seen a white person in days. I had just have a concussion. I'm not thinking straight, so immediately I run up to him. He runs up to me, and we hug, and I'm like, brother, we are together now. Oh, and so, we decide to go off and go, walk around this little town for a bit, right? I go around the river looking for things. I see one of my things, like it was like a notebook or something that broke out of my bag, all right? And I go collect that. And as we're walking up this little path, there's like a small diner at the side of the river, like down these steps on the right side, and like a steep vertical cliff on the left. And we see a golden monkey, and it jumps down from the trees in front of us and lands in front of us. And I look at him, and he looks at me, and with his thick French accent, he responds back, and I'm just like, monkey. And the monkey runs it back up the thing. We keep walking further down this path, and then we see 3 monkeys. And then next thing I know, I don't know what overcame us. We turn to the left and start climbing this massive mountain and that is like nearly vertical, dude. Like I was breaking sticks and stabbing it into the ground because we were chasing the monkeys. We get halfway up this mountain, okay? Halfway up this massive hill, and we're talking about, easily like half a football field or something up. And suddenly I hear a loud shrieking sound. I look to my left, there are monkeys. I look to my right, there are monkeys. I look further up the hill, there are not just a couple monkeys, there are a god ton of monkeys. And I quickly realize we are about to be attacked. So, I skidded off that damn mountain as fast as I could, which ripped open the back of my pants and is leaving me with this pair of assless chaps where my boxers are hanging out. And the Frenchmen looked very much the same way. We're plastered head to toe in mud. And then we're just like in a really shabby state, okay? And we crash back onto the path below. We circle around the river. We find a nice, quite isolated spot, okay? And the guy is like, I'm gonna go take a bath. I'm like, okay, sure. He goes in the river, and I kid you not, the man lays down flat in the river, starts flopping like a fish. And right at that moment, a boat comes by full of Japanese tourists, and they start taking photos of him. They start taking photos of this SOB. I'm hiding behind a random pickup truck in a ditch behind this gravel path across from the river because I'm like, my God, I don't want to be seen with this guy. Fuck no. You know what I mean? After that, we walked back into town, and the guy was like, yeah, I think I'm going to go break into an abandoned house. And I was like, Jesus Christ, who the fuck is this guy? And he's like, do you want to come with? I'm like, no, I'm fine. I already got a hotel. Which is true. I had a hostel arrangement back in Kyoto. And so I just went to a clothing store, bought myself a new pair of pants from Uniqlo. Or not Uniqlo, it was like some generic knockoff retailer. And I put on those pants, and then I just took the train back to Kyoto to go back to the hostel because I needed to crash because I have a severe concussion. I should not be going on adventures. That entire event of things, that entire story completely happened to me. I was an active participant for the entire thing, and I'm just like, dude, it's wow, you know? And so when I see Nichijou and they take like these ordinary things and they amp it up to 20 and make it so funny, I'm like, that is so real. That is what real comedy looks like, you know? There are just these random moments in life where things will escalate to like an insane degree, and then it just becomes super humorous. Well, I think that's all I can say on that topic, really. Because, like, yeah, man, life is funny sometimes. What else can you really say? That entire adventure of mine was... Well, I can curtail it into this, okay? One of the things I noticed about that adventure was, at the time, I was basically broke, okay? I went over to Japan on a big adventure. I quit my original job for a car manufacturer. And I was like, I am going to leave my homeland. I'm going to find something better, and I'm going to go over to Japan and see how they do things. And what I kind of found was it was just another place. It wasn't really that special. There are things I like about it. I mean, hell, you still see me drinking Japanese canned coffees, and I still like talking about Japanese shows and books. But in the end, it was just another place with people in it. It wasn't this romanticized place that everybody talked about. The people weren't more intelligent than us, even though that's what everybody said. It wasn't more advanced than we are. It was just another place with such people in it. I remember for a while there, I sat down and I watched this old man. And I was in Tokyo for a month there. And I sat there and I watched him build a wall. And every single day he would come out and he put 4 or 5 bricks on the wall. That's it. Just 4 or 5 bricks on this small wall in front of his suburban apartment in Saitama. And I watched him slowly but steadily build this wall right there in a pattern. I would just sit across the street and just observe it. And I was like, there's something to it that, you know what I mean? Building small stones to build something greater. And I really admired that. I really, really admired that moment. I guess what I'm trying to say is, though, when I was broke and I had no responsibilities and I was off on that wild adventure, I was the most free I have ever been. And freedom is kind of a strange concept to me because you have some kinds of freedom that are obvious to you, okay? Like in America, we have a freedom of our political parties to vote, quote-unquote freedom of speech, even though, yeah, that's not really true, is it? You're free to say anything up until the point that it will get you on a watch list, and then suddenly you realize you don't really have freedom of speech, do you? There were things in Japan I was free to discuss that I'm not free to discuss here in America. Just think about that. Just think about that. And Japan's a police state. They're not a free country either. They are absolutely a government-mandated, bureaucratic state. So, if they have certain freedoms we don't, for example, their freedoms are things like you can walk on the street with a beer in your hand, and you can drink that beer there, and no cop is ever going to question you because you're drinking a beer in public. It's not illegal. But here, you drink a beer as you're walking down the street, at least where I live, and that's an instant ticket, my friend. And you have to hide it. You have to conceal it. You know what I mean? It's not something you can just openly do. And it really makes me think, why is it like that? It doesn't add up. There are some things that just don't add up to freedom. And the more responsibilities you get, the less freedoms you have, the more meaning life has. Responsibility creates meaning, which therefore means you need to create as much responsibility so you have a meaning to live. When you're younger and you have less responsibilities, are you more free? Absolutely. But you also have you have a lot less meaning to construct your life around. It doesn't have a purpose. There's not a forward direction you're moving in. And that's kind of a shame in some ways, don't you think? I think so anyways. Well, I'm going to conclude today's car chat on that note. I originally just meant to talk about comedy, and I told the monkey story, which is still one of my favorite personal real-life adventures I went on. Oh, you know what? I'm not satisfied with that. I'm going to cap it off with one other story from Japan, okay? So, long story short, there was a night I went out, and I went to a mixer, okay? Like a big mixer for like internationals and Japanese to go to. And I got very, very drunk. And I hit on this one girl there, and we arranged a date for the next day. Sounds wonderful, doesn't it? So I go to get on the train and back to my apartment in Saitama, and I accidentally get on the wrong direction. And right train line, and it was the Keintoko line, I remember that. But instead of going up north to Kawaguchi, I ended up going south all the way to Ofuna. And I was firmly convinced that, no, I am just going to Ofuna. I'm just going to a place right next to Kawaguchi, and it's going to be fine. In fact, I could probably walk back, like an hour. Forget about it. Never mind that Ofuna is 60, 70, 80 miles away in the middle of the mountains. Well, there was a group of salarymen and a girl there, and they were translating for me. And they made me realize that, no, you're heading in the wrong direction, and you probably need to get a hotel for the night. I was like, no, I'll be fine. It's great. This is going to be wonderful. I get off at that train station, and I start wandering around for a bit. And I took a break in front of a convenience store. I must have fell asleep for an hour or two. I woke up to see a Japanese girl poking me on the cheek. Completely confused, why is there a drunk foreigner passed out on a bench here? I got up, she giggled, and jumped on her bike and rode off. And I continued on my little adventure. I ended up going through so many different Buddhist temple facilities they have over there. And I came across this river, right? And in my mind, I was convinced every river other than the Mississippi, and other than the Amazon and the Nile, flow south. Therefore, if I follow this river upstream, I will find my way home. So I followed the river upstream, and then I hit a point where the river flowed both ways. It wasn't a river, it was a water canal artificially made. And I hit the floodgate, and I'm just standing there, completely, blasted out of my mind. And I'm just like, what am I looking at? You know what I mean? Eventually I find the train station. I take the train station up. There's a girl on the train who sits next to me who worked for Ufotable. Oh, the animation studio. Very nice girl. Very lovely. We had a great chat on the train ride up. I then went up to my apartment. I washed, I showered, I shaved, and I jumped back on the train to go back to Shinjuku because I already made an appointment the next day to have a date with that girl. And she brought a friend with her. Or ends up somehow in my infinite wisdom, I managed to hit on a girl who only spoke Japanese, and my Japanese at the time was poor. And her friend could speak fluent English. And so they board a train with me, and we all go to Yokohama to go to this place for a trick art museum. And they take me to like this big shopping plaza in Yokohama, and there's like a trick art museum, and I am having the worst hangover of my life. And I will never forget what this girl's friend was basically telling me, that the girl I basically arranged a date with, this other girl, her friend, is just like, hey, she doesn't know anything we're saying, right? You should go out with me instead of her. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, dude. Talk about pushy and intimidating, you know what I mean? But yeah, if you've never had a terrible hangover and you've got to go through a trick art museum, don't. You know what I mean? That is just do not do this. It's a bad time. And in the end, I ended up leaving, and I never saw neither of those girls again after that date. But it was a valuable learning experience. It was very interesting to have like this day out back then, And yeah, man, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. So, this has been Gerald from the Workshop. I'm doing my daily car chat, and I'm out.